Welcome into A ToZ Sports prime time on a Sunday, or no, it's a Monday night here. Back at home in Nashville, Tennessee. Titans are back on the practice field. Tempers flare today at practice, and that is really the most notable thing to happen at Titans practice today. We are going to talk about Cameron Ward and Jeffrey Simmons getting into a little shoving match after the play. Again, how much of a deal you want to make this? Well, we'll ask you the question. Big deal, little deal, or no deal? I'll give you my thoughts on the situation, but there wasn't really anything of great consequence to come out of today's practice other than it's notable anytime the quarterback gets in a shoving match, and especially one that, as we will discuss, the quarterback did instigate. So I think a lot of people are going to, Jeffrey Simmons and Cameron Ward, their relationship's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine, but it is a thing to talk about. It is a thing that happened today that is worth discussing. So we will do exactly that. Robert is going to be on at the end of the show to talk about whatever it is that he's brought to the table this evening. Apparently, Jeffrey has put out a response blaming us. Okay, if that's what he wants to do, that's fine. You know how I feel about Jeffrey and his consumption of media at this point in time in particular, but what we will talk about it as we work through tonight's show. So with that being said, share the broadcast around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, wherever you're spending your valuable and precious time with us this evening. And as you do that, if you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet it. Facebook Live, you can share now to public in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. YouTube and Twitch, like the video, subscribe to the channel, tell a friend to do the same. And we will look forward to hearing from Jarvis Brownlee Jr. and Dan Moore on this very subject, with all the different things that did not necessarily happen at practice today. It wasn't an overwhelm. Well, let's talk about this together, because I think it's worth talking about practice first and foremost, and then we can get into the TMZ part of it. And I don't just say that because Jeffrey and I ended up on TMZ last year. So Cameron Ward and Jeff get into it. No TMZ. What's so sexy about us getting into it? Anyway, we can laugh at those things after the fact. And since then, it's been pretty smooth sailing, but we'll talk about the practice first and foremost, because the practice is what matters most here and not the shoving match, even though that is the thing that is going to grab most of your attention this afternoon. Brandon Tyler says we should try to get Big Jeff in the chat. See, that's the funny thing about those is we used to be able to see who was watching the live stream, like in real time. Like, it used to be a whole convoluted system, the way that we got the A to Z shows off the ground. Now it's much, much simpler, much more streamlined. But I would always get notifications of who was watching, like in real time on a different monitor that I had in the office here. And the amount of times that I would catch Titans players and coaches live streaming the show in the middle of it, not knowing that I could see that they were watching, is pretty funny. Because for as silly as these things are, and for as much as you hear from players and coaches about shutting out the outside noise, they sure do seem to consume a lot of it in their private scrolling time, which is fine. That's, it doesn't make any different than you or I, but it also makes me call bullshit every time they say, well, we don't pay attention to the outside noise. No, I literally watch you do it, or at least I used to watch you do it, be able to watch you do it on a night-by-night basis. And that is, whatever. It's a slow time in sports. We're all reading things like this or watching things like this ahead of actual football discussions to be had. When something like this pops up, especially with a quarterback involved and the offense and defense getting into it as a result, especially when there was not so much of that during the joint training camp practices, and this is their first opportunity to jump in on this. It is, it's just something that happened today, and that's what we're going to talk about. Things that happened today at practice. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Palatial Rising Estate. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful people at Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, online at tworiversford.com. Quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online, like I mentioned. TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. You can go there for your first workout free, and you will enjoy it. Your first workout is free because they know you'll be hooked. Go to TrueMathFitness.com to learn more about their great membership offers today. All right. So before we get into all the different things, or really the main thing was that Jeff and Cameron Ward got into it, and frankly, Cameron Ward started. you can say that Jeffrey should know better to put hands, even if it's just shoving on a quarterback in a practice, and you can say that's poor form. And you may say something different. I have no idea what you might say, but you guys didn't see it, and we did, which allows us or requires us to retell the situation in as much detail as humanly possible, to give you guys as much context as humanly possible, rather than just picking a side or dismissing it outright. Because it's not, I mean, you can't dismiss it outright. It's a thing that happened today on the practice field. But first and foremost, let's talk about practice today, because that is the thing that matters infinitely more than all this other stupid shit. So, and it is stupid shit. Like, it's just a part of pro football and a part of football generally, especially when it's 96 degrees in the shade out there, as it was today at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. But they came back from this long road trip, came off the preseason game in Atlanta, first time that they're practicing back at the facility. And it wasn't like an overwhelmingly good day. I thought that the offense had ups and downs. I thought that really it was a better day for the defensive backs. Robert was out there doing some Big J journalism type stuff, because practice was actually happening while we were on the air. Now, we got to see everything from our vantage point. By the way, it's really worth, I don't just say this because I like to plug my own shit, but the radio show was great today. We had Ben Jones. Ben Jones is going to be a weekly with us on Mondays after games. We're going to break those down. Brett Kern is also going to be a weekly, twice a week visitor with us on Mondays and Fridays. So it was a really, really good and informative football conversation around practice that was happening today. And we're going to get to do that every week with Ben Jones, Brett Kern, Nate Washington, and Jason Fitz is also going to be on with us weekly on Tuesdays for a little bit of, hot takery, because that's what Fitz does, and I like to shout him down about it. But with everything that went down today at practice, I thought that there were some moments that are worth talking about, specifically with Cameron Ward and Lloyd Cushenberry. Lloyd Cushenberry trying to get involved, getting involved in limited team reps today for the first time. It's the first time that we've seen Lloyd Cushenberry take a snap in full pads from Cameron Ward as the quarterback, or I guess Lloyd Cushenberry snapping the ball to Cameron Ward with Cameron Ward as the quarterback. So that's the first time that I'm sure they've done it, when they're doing walkthroughs and things like that, or just getting reps as Lloyd's been getting ready. But as Brown and Casey points out, this man tore his Achilles, not an ACL, but an Achilles in mid-November. And at that size, and especially what you require your Achilles tendon for, it is pretty crazy that Lloyd Cushenberry is back at this point. Now, he's not full go just yet, and he's not somebody that I think you should – I don't call it a comeback until he's officially fully back at this point in time. And Titans Kyle points out that giving the snap, not taking it. Yes, I misspoke. I appreciate the correction there. I don't think I caught my own correction. But either way, Lloyd Cushenberry participating in team, even if it was just one period of team as opposed to the rest of the practice because Corey Levin finished it out, that's huge. That's a huge development, a football development, something that's not a silly little shoving match in a low red zone drill after the play between the quarterback and the defensive tackle. That is a thing that matters. It's a thing that's going to you're going to continue to track, because we've got 3 weeks until we all ship off for Denver, and that is going to be something that Cameron Ward would benefit greatly by. We talked to Lloyd Cushenberry when they activated him from PUP when we were all down in Atlanta, and he was not putting timelines on it necessarily, but of course his line was, well, yeah, that's the goal, to be ready for week 1. I'm sure he would like to go and play against his former team. The Broncos drafted him in the 3rd round out of LSU. It was either the 2nd or the 3rd round. I want to say it was the 3rd round, but my memory is not great at this point. It was the COVID draft for sure. But Lloyd Cushenberry, drafted by the Denver Broncos, has been here now for a year and change, and I'm sure he would love the opportunity to go against his former team. And God knows they could use him, right? They can use all the extra help, all the additional advantages that Lloyd Cushenberry might bring facing Van Joseph's defense, because Van Joseph's defense is going to be more difficult than anything that Cameron Ward has had to play against since then or leading up to this. So that is a positive development. Will it be ready to go by week 1? I have no earthly idea. I'm sure they don't have any idea, but that is something to keep in mind. Jared Stillman's burner, which I'm delighted by. Stillman, by the way, called me. What was this? Called me on, was it Thursday, maybe Wednesday? And he said, because he's been doing some stuff for Sirius, and for those of you who don't know, I know Jared a long time, and I enjoy him. I like Jared. I know many of you hate him, but he's a decent human being despite his efforts, right? You know, I think he likes to project a certain way, even if he's not as big and bad or as loudmouth. Well, he is actually everything that you see in front of him. I appreciate it for what it is, as opposed to taking him seriously, and that's because we're friends. But he called me like Thursday or Wednesday, and he's been doing some stuff for Sirius, and he said, I just called Cameron Ward, or he won't call him Cameron. He also texted me about that today because he's got too much free time and he's listening to the radio show. He called me and said, I just called Cam Ward a bust on Sirius. You guys should run the audio on the Zone and talk about it, and you'll get a bunch of calls. I said, why would I do that? Why on earth would I do that? And I love Jared. I love Jared because he will call me and say things like this, which make me laugh. But I'm like, Jared, what do I give a shit what you said about Cameron Ward on Sirius that particular day, when I know damn well you don't know one way or the other whether he's a bust, and I'm watching him more than you are on a regular basis. But he cracks me up either way. I do love him for stuff like that, even if I don't take it seriously the way I know he wishes that I would take it seriously. So with everything that you have going on, specific to Sneed, because that's the question before I got distracted by that pudgy little face in front of me. Sneed, they keep saying sooner rather than later. Could there be at least an update on that tomorrow? I am confident that Brian Callahan is going to be asked about that tomorrow. How much information he divulges, I couldn't tell you how he'll handle the question, but I do think that there are at least some positive steps in the momentum of getting L'Jarius Sneed activated from PUP. Now, does activated from PUP mean that he will participate in practice? It probably won't, because bringing L'Jarius Sneed back also includes bringing his plan back, which does not include frequent practices on the field. Now, how the hell you play NFL corner without going full speed at practice, couldn't possibly tell you. Apparently, it worked very well for him at Kansas City, so I'm sure he has different ways to keep himself in physical condition, and I'm sure he's been working hard on that. I don't doubt that at all. There's been no reason for me to there's been no indication that we should be skeptical about what it is that L'Jarius Sneed does to get himself ready, other than he was not up to snuff last year when he did perform. But I think that when you talk about L'Jarius Sneed, what does that look like to get him back, other than, okay, they've got the management plan and he'll be on the field of play whenever it is that he's ready. Lisa Braden sends a message that on YouTube that I think many of you feel at this point in time. She says Sneed is just collecting money. He doesn't want to play here. I don't know that that's true. I don't have any evidence that that's true, other than he's had some unfortunate setbacks. And you know who was stealing money from the Titans? Vic Beasley. Okay, this is not a Vic Beasley situation, or at least there's no evidence to believe that it's a Vic Beasley situation. Now, that's, Lisa, I get the sentiment. I would understand how a Titans fan would feel that way. But I don't think that you get where L'Jarius Sneed has gotten and the situation that he got himself out of as a high school player, using football as a tool to get recruited to La Tech, to then go in the fourth round of the NFL drafted, then go on to be a two-time Super Bowl champion. There are things that happen to guys after they get there. You get your championship first, and then you want your contract, is how a lot of this stuff works. And I tell you guys regularly that it doesn't mean as much to them to win football programs or football games for your team as it means to you. That's just the nature of the business. Some of them do care that way. Once you see more of the business side as a player, you understand how that could be a little bit more jaded on the player side, even if you don't like that. Those are fair things to point out, even if you're not able to discern them as often as people want to make that accusation, if that makes sense. Like Vic Beasley stole money from you. Okay. This is not a Vic Beasley situation, or at least there's no evidence to indicate that this is a Vic Beasley situation. So I get why it would come into your mind that way, but I can't agree with that because there's literally no evidence to suggest that that's true, other than as a fan base, you're probably in your feels about the L'Jarius Sneed circumstance, and you just don't believe that he's suffered the kind of setbacks that he has. But like, that accusation is not being made of Lloyd Cushenberry. Now, I know it's probably compounding the frustration that Lloyd Cushenberry with an Achilles tear is more available or available sooner than L'Jarius Sneed is. But also the context of it's not the thigh injury that knocked him out of the season that's keeping him out right now. It's the knee scope that he had, 3 months ago in May? So he had a knee scope 3 months ago. That coming off of the thigh contusion turned, God knows whatever it turned, that took so long and was so overwhelmingly complicated for the medical staff to figure out. That is a thing that is worth monitoring there. But all this to say, Chris Fleming on YouTube says, I've heard a lot of folks defend Cushenberry's character versus Sneed. Haven't heard much of that, really. I don't know. It probably depends on where you're looking, right? I mean, who specifically has brought up Lloyd Cushenberry's character? Every time they're asked about anybody, any of them, go listen to the Jarvis Brownlee interview that we did. I don't know, Robert, how long ago was that? It's probably been 3 weeks at this point. L'Jarius Sneed is hugely impactful on Jarvis Brownlee. You guys like Jarvis Brownlee? If you don't take Jarvis Brownlee's word for it, I don't know who you're going to believe. So it probably depends on, are you reading this shit on Twitter? Are you reading this shit on Facebook? Chris Fleming says Ben Jones defended Cush this morning. I think, it was on my radio show. It's because I asked him specifically about Lloyd Cushenberry. I didn't ask Ben Jones about L'Jarius Sneed. Also, Ben and Lloyd Cushenberry have the same agent. That's why I asked the question of Ben, because I know that they talk, him and Lloyd. So you can make it whatever you want to make it in your own head, but I'm saying that there's not evidence the way that it seems that you seem to think there is, that L'Jarius Sneed is bad versus Lloyd Cushenberry, for example, is good. That's not a thing that the Titans are experiencing. Now, I'll also tell you, in typical Stillman behavior, it says getting off topic, talk about Simmons and Cam Ward. Yeah, I mean, I'll get to that, but that shit's not important. That's interesting. It's not as important. This shit's important. So I'll get to that. Don't rush me. I think that when you talk about the kind of things that the Titans need right now, you understand, or maybe you don't. They are really bad after McCreary and Brownlee. Maybe you noticed that in the preseason game. Their depth corner situation is dog shit. Okay? Respectfully. Maybe that I can't say dog shit respectfully. I don't know, but it's bad. They need L'Jarius Sneed to play for this football team. There is no Christian Wilkins. Well, maybe he makes a mistake, right? Like the Raiders with Christian Wilkins, they waited for him to disagree with the medical advice or the rehabilitation path that they suggested, then they voided his guaranteed money. There is not a consideration of that here. Maybe the Raiders were just not interested in dealing with the Christian Wilkins situation, and that provided them a convenient excuse to move on from him in that circumstance. But the whole situation beyond, the forehead kiss or whatever it was that Schefter reported, that doesn't really matter. Again, interesting versus important. The Raiders voided his guaranteed money because he did something different than their medical staff agreed was the best path to get the player that they're paying X amount of guaranteed money. I think it was somewhere between 35 and $40 million, 35 and $38 million guaranteed. I can't remember the exact guarantees on Christian Wilkins' deal, but they voided his guarantee, and maybe he'll recoup some of that with the grievance that he filed through the NFLPA. But I promise you, the Titans are not interested in doing that. They need L'Jarius Sneed to play. I don't say this just because I'm guessing, but because I've talked to people about this. They are also greatly concerned as a football team. They're going to have concerns this year. They know what they are. Cameron Ward is the only one who's gassing them up in the offseason, and that's fine. He's welcome to do that. Cameron plays by different rules, or gets to play by different rules on this particular subject than the rest of them. The rest of them better not hype themselves up at all, because they are a 3-14 football team prior to his arrival, and he just doesn't come associated. Cameron Ward does not come associated with the baggage that everybody else does. The rest of them are suspect and need to, operate with a degree of caution on do more, say less, which has been something that they have needed to abide by for basically a calendar year, and they've course corrected on the messaging a great deal from year over year. I think that you are in a situation where they are very aware of their shortcomings as an organization, and so they are trying to get him, Sneed, back on the field as quickly as humanly possible. I think that there's a lot of, it's easy to jump to conclusions, guys, and a lot of times you all, and there's nothing wrong with that. I get it, because I work in media. Like, I get wanting things to be more interesting than they actually are, wanting there to be some kind of tinfoil hat conspiracy. And maybe every once in a while, one of those things does pop up. Like the Vic Beasley thing was real. It was one of the most bizarre situations I've ever covered. The Isaiah Wilson situation was one of the most bizarre situations I've ever covered. Like, sometimes things do go as sideways as humanly possible, but for the most part, it's really not as dramatic as I think a lot of people want to make it, or try to make it in their heads, just because you don't get the benefit of having the conversations. And I don't say that to be like, I talk to people and you don't, but like, guys, I'm literally around this team for 10 years. On a daily basis, I'm around this football team for 10 years. And a lot of, pieces and parts have changed over that time. But I mean, what do you think I talk to folks about? Like, hey, what am I seeing versus what you're seeing? And tell me what's fair. I try to relay as much information that I think is fair from them to you guys as humanly possible. And I also tell you when I think they're full of shit. Last year they were full of shit. All right, new regime, fresh slate for the most part. Let's be transparent, or as transparent as humanly possible with one another, so that I don't spin out and I don't spin you guys out as a result, because we want to make sure that we have a fair conversation around this stuff. Fairness is the thing that matters here. And now we get to the TMZ of it, because that's what a bunch of you clicked on the show tonight for, to hear about Cameron Ward, and Jeff Simmons fighting in practice. Okay. So we'll get into that here in just a second. Then we'll do, in case you missed it, at the end of the show with Robert, Cordy Jackson says Cameron Wake was pretty bad also. Yeah, but Cameron Wake didn't come in here and actively steal money. Like, Cameron Wake was old. He was 37 years old when he signed here, and he just got hurt. He couldn't play. Vic Beasley cost himself $100,000 because he was 10 days late to training camp. Those are two very, very different scenarios. Very, very different scenarios. One, again, you want it to be more interesting than it actually is. No, you signed an old player, and the old player broke down a little bit, like physically broke down a little bit. You run that risk when you try and solve problems through free agency, especially when you're paying for past production. I don't have to relitigate those things for you. Now let's talk about the shoving match, the thing that got all the headlines today. So, big deal, little deal, no deal. Cameron Ward's shoving match with Jeffrey Simmons today, which I will tell you, Cameron started. So, with that, We will dive into the comments together right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMath Fitness there to help you accomplish your fitness goals, no matter what your level of fitness is. Like I said, I'm incredibly happy to be back in Nashville, not just to be home, but to be able to get back on my routine. And I love the routine that TrueMath has helped me accomplish. They have been great partners for many, many years, and they will be great partners to you in your pursuit of your fitness journey. Go to TrueMathFitness.com for more details. All right, big deal, little deal, no deal. The shoving match between Cameron Ward and Jeffrey Simmons. Now, I will read you Jeff's response here in just a second, because Jeff is making it an us, you guys versus the media type of thing, and that's fine. He's allowed to. Jeffrey can feel any way that he wants to, just in the same way that you guys are welcome to have your opinion. Jeffrey is also welcome to have his opinion. And again, I didn't think that Jeffrey was on the wrong side of it today. I thought that Cameron Ward was on the wrong side of it today. But it was hot at practice, hot as hell, 98 or 96 degrees, I believe was the temperature. Real feel had to have been triple digits between the heat and the humidity, of course, and no protection from the clouds, no cloud cover today. Ward threw a touchdown pass to Ridley toward the end of practice, went to celebrate. What Cameron Ward should not do is he stopped and shoved Jeffrey Simmons before doing a Zombieland thing right in Jeffrey's face. Now, what do you know about Jeffrey Simmons? He's a very prideful human being, a very competitive human being, and it doesn't matter who's in front of him in that particular moment. If somebody shoves you, talks shit to you, and then does a custom celebration in your face after the fact, you're going to sit there and take it if you're Jeffrey? No, you're going to turn around and shove him back. Now, when you shove a quarterback that's on your team in an NFL practice, what's going to happen? Well, there's going to be pushing and shoving on both sides. Defense is going to come to the defense, no pun intended, of Jeffrey. Offensive line is going to take it personally. All the things that you'll want to see from competitors in that situation. I saw this from above because I'm on the SeatGeek Terrace. For those of you who've been to the practice facility, the newer wing, I think it's about 3 or 4 years old at this point, but the newer wing of the practice facility runs parallel to the 3 practice fields. And so we like doing the radio show broadcast from the SeatGeek Terrace, because if they're practicing on the first field, okay, I have a pretty good vantage point from the ground, but if they're practicing on 2 or 3, I can't see what's going on at practice, and I got to be able to see what's going on at practice. So while we're doing the radio show, even if we may be a little more distracted than I would be if I was just there to watch practice and take notes. So they were on field 1 today, and we had a great vantage point, and Ben Jones was up there with us. You could probably tell the moment if you go back and watch the radio show's live broadcast, when that moment happened, specifically with Ben Jones on the air with us. But Simmons turns around after Cam does the celebration, 2-hand shove to Ward's face mask, and then the offensive line comes in and backs Cameron Ward up. Now, it gets cleared off in relatively quick fashion. Dan Moore, the Titans left tackle, was asked about, does it matter if it's your own defense that's shoving your quarterback?
Absolutely not. Come on now. That's what I said. That's what I said.
So that's the Titans left tackle. Doesn't matter if it's our defense. Doesn't matter if it's the Vikings defense. You put hands on the quarterback, you're going to get hands put on you. And that's the response that you want. Now, this was Jarvis Brownlee's reaction to the situation that occurred at the end of practice. You make of this what you will.
Just show you the level of competition, man. And show you that the offensive guys, they care about winning. Defensive side, they care about winning. And you got to be a next play mentality. But you never want to see your quarterback in the middle of those type of things. But when it do happens, it just shows you the level of dog he got in him. He ain't gonna take nothing. It shows you how much he cares about his offense, how much he cares about winning. And same goes for both sides of the ball with Jeff and him. You get that same attitude, that same confidence, that same edge each and every day out of those 2 guys. They never change. So that's what you expect. But when it does happen with our quarterback, we try to break it up as soon as possible, fix it as soon as possible. But for me, I feel like it's a great thing. When you got great teams, man, brothers fight. And at the end of the day, as long as we all got each other back, we all connected, we all got that bond, and we all got that same connection where we going to fight for one another, then that's the most important thing at the end of the day.
It's so big deal, little deal, no deal is the question. All right, it's a little deal. The quarterback started it. Quarterback shouldn't shove Jeff Simmons in the back. That's just what it is, especially knowing that if Jeffrey does it back to him, that there are going to be consequences likely for Jeffrey, but not for Cameron Ward. So it's a little deal. It's the littlest deal. It's just slightly above being a no deal, even though it's going to get a bunch of headlines. And to Jeff's point, I'll read Jeffrey Simmons' tweet today because he's correct about this. But it's natural that this is going to happen. And I'm sure there's no issue between the two of them at all whatsoever. And tomorrow they'll come back and try and get good work in. This is what he says. LOL, yeah, y'all doing way too much. It's practice. It's football. Shit happens between the lines. But y'all letting these reporters blow up something that happened at practice says a lot. Well, that's actually, he's calling fans out a little bit on that. Trust me, me and one are good. Okay, like, nothing wrong with that. But also, no, he's absolutely correct. This is a football practice. Guys are hot and miserable and tired and pissed and competitive at a football practice. And when one of these competitors, arguably the most competitively batshit player on the team, Jeffrey Simmons, gets shoved in the back by a guy who you can't shove back, that Cameron Ward shouldn't do that. That's the only reason it's a slightly little deal. Don't do that. Don't treat your teammates that way, knowing that they can't reciprocate. Yeah, I think he's, I don't think that's like, I don't think that Cameron Ward is a bad actor on purpose that way. I think he's also kind of like Jeffrey, except, like I said, when Jeffrey, as he did, turns around and does the exact same thing, that's going to become an issue. Now, Bobby brings this up today because Kaharski had a tweet, and I'll read you. Let me pull up PK's tweet so I read directly from it as opposed to paraphrasing here. Bobby Carter says, I just want to know if he was escorted off the field, like Kaharski said, because instead he left the field on his own as well. So what PK tweeted was Jeffrey Simmons basically escorted to the locker room by PR after practice. Titans aren't touching any of that. If it was nothing, have him say it was nothing. If it was something, he needs to address it. To be honest, I didn't see like PR grab Jeffrey, because what are they going to do? I mean, these PR staffers, they've been doing this a long, long time, especially some of them who've been with the team. Like, for example, Dwight Spradlin's a name that you guys aren't going to know, but Dwight's been with the team for 26 years. The thing that, the idea of Dwight Spradlin or Kaylee Connors, who's like 5'2" or something like that, escorting Jeffrey Simmons off the field. Yeah, I'm sure they didn't grab him by the arms and walk him in the locker room, because you can't. I didn't see specifically what Paul is talking about there. I'm not doubting that they were protective of the situation and said, no, we're not. He's not going to take questions after this, or we don't want him to take questions after this. And because Paul wants questions to be asked about this, and I think it's fair, then, he puts out a tweet like that. Jeffrey runs hot. I don't got to tell you guys. Jeff, after a practice, because his mom texted him a tweet that I sent about him being sloppy on that particular day, which I absolutely stand on. And Jeff and I have talked about that and let bygones be bygones. All well and good. They probably didn't want him to take questions, because Jeffrey, when he's in an emotional state, him and Calvin Ridley are two of the ones that they'll pop off and say some shit that they shouldn't, or could say some shit that they shouldn't. So if you're PR, okay, your job is to make sure that you protect the players from saying some shit, or potentially saying some shit that they shouldn't. So I'm not going to say that they shouldn't have done their job to mitigate or risk manage, that's their job. That's literally what that is in part. I mean, the PR job is multifaceted, but that's a part of their job to protect the players from the media getting them in a gotcha moment. That the media wants to talk about this thing is also fair. I think it's completely fair to ask questions, but that didn't happen. Jeffrey Simmons was, at least in some way, shape, or form, maneuvered away from people that would want to ask him questions about this, and so no questions were asked. PR did their job, that they did their job, and media didn't get whatever interaction that we wanted to get out of it. Nobody's going to care that we didn't get to ask Jeffrey Simmons in that situation. So, Bobby says, "Damn, that sucks. You got it before I fixed the typing. That was terrible." Yeah, I didn't, but I didn't come after you for how badly it was, Bobby. And I appreciate your clarification. And there's not an edit button on YouTube, so that's just what it is. I think that because I have done that in the past when people's grammar and stuff like that sucks, and I'm trying to be better, trying to be a little more diplomatic. Trying to I'm trying to PR myself a little bit instead of just cracking you guys. It's just the way that I do sometimes. But yeah, I mean, so I get why Kaharski wanted to talk to Jeffrey Simmons. I would also want to talk to Jeffrey after that moment. I would also have liked to talk to Cameron after that moment. We got to speak to neither of them. PR did their job. So PR doesn't have to. It's one less headache for PR to deal with. Okay, so we didn't get the quote. Like I said, I am in defense of wanting the quote, but I get why PR does their job that way. Anyway, we got, in case you missed it, Robert's got something potentially prepared for us tonight. His backdrop looks a little different this evening. He's not going to Kool-Aid man through a wall like he typically does, or maybe he will. Maybe he'll Kool-Aid man through a couch. What do you have prepared for us back there at this point in time?
Nothing, just enjoying my new digs, my new house I moved in. You like my scented pine cones?
What is the scent? Because if I had to guess what the pine cones were scented like in your home specifically, it may not be as fragrant or appealing to the population as it might be to you, or maybe even me.
We'll give them a shot. Hold on. They smell like shit. They don't smell good.
That's why you pick up the pine cones that are not next to a pile of dog shit as opposed to going to Crate and Barrel.
Yes, I thought everyone was just harvesting their own pine cones from outside. I do think it's important to note that some nuance can be lost when you're reading text or reading an email or you receive a text from someone. So I don't want people to think that the skirmish or whatever you want to say happened, and then they're separated, and then Titans PR, like James Brown, comes in and puts a towel over Jeff. No, get inside, get inside. No, the play was separated. Yep. Jeff went to the sideline. Cam went to the offensive sideline. They both cooled down, and then somewhere after that, they came and got Jeff. It wasn't
they finished practice.
Right. It wasn't let's get him in here and protect him from the media from asking all the hard questions. Yeah. It wasn't ushered is a mischaracterization of what I think happened. But I also understand
the word that Karski used was basically escorted.
Sure. By the definition of escorted, he had someone on either side of him. He was escorted into the building. But
had Jeffrey not wanted to be escorted, Jeffrey.
Yeah. Pick up Dwight with one hand and slam him on the ground.
With one hand. Poor Dwight.
Anyway.
Imagine that having to be your job. Okay, I've got to go deal with pissed off Jeffrey Simmons and get him back into the locker room when he doesn't want to go in the locker room.
Jeffy, baby, come here, talk to me. What is this? What do you give me the big crocodile tears for? Come here, buddy. Come here. It's okay. That'd be great. They would love me.
You'd be hugging his leg, not his
torso.
Here.
Come here. Give me a friend smooch. It would work out.
Smooch. A Christian Wilkins smooch.
Checking the oil. It was announced today The greatest merchandising deal in NFL history has been completed. Yes, it is. It is going to be not just fascinating for the NFL, but also for footwear of unattractive men who have wives who despise them. That is, of course, speaking about the Crocs.
Oh.
The NFL and the Crocs have announced a multi-year licensing agreement today, launching the first ever NFL Crocs collection, aimed at bringing a fresh design and perspective to football fandom everywhere. I, for myself, want to let you guys know, if you weren't rocking with me in sport mode, do not be rocking with me in the end zone. I do not want to see any of you people, any of you out there wearing. If you weren't rocking with Crocs, don't be like, oh, I got to get me a game day pair. You ain't got to get shit, buddy, and you'll like it. Because if I go try to buy a pair of Ravens Crocs and a bunch of Ravens fans that are up in Maryland, like, oh, I like crabs, I like trash, I like mid-cities. Well, I need a pair of Ravens Crocs before anything else. I don't know.
Bobby said, oh, my God, that's terrible.
Bobby doesn't even have his picture up. Bobby probably looks like he eats Crocs in real life. Well, how do we know what Bobby's...
Well, based on his earlier attempt to type something in. I know he came to his own defense. He said he missed the space bar a couple of times.
I can only assume that Bobby is wearing a pair of high-heeled sandals right now, just enjoying his toes being strapped in, his big toe being separate. But no, you could be in the superior footwear where all of your toes are free to wiggle and go as they please and aerate. My Crocs, where are my Crocs at right now? Where are my Crocs?
On your nasty ass feet.
I think I took them off as I came in the house because I went to the sauna today. So either way, some of us are adults and don't wear Crocs. Titans Kyle, what is going on? God, I wish you weren't the size of an acorn right now. And I would decide, those are some big guns, Titans Kyle. But I would venture to say that just because you've got those big guns does not mean that you have big fun, because you're shitting on Crocs. I have never met an intelligent person who wears Crocs. Tom Thumb, nice to meet you. Meet Larry Middlefinger. It does not matter to me or any of y'all about the opinion of whether Crocs are the superior footwear or not. Probably camo Crocs. I would rock a pair of camo Crocs.
See, now I don't even have to put them up on the screen for Bert to spin out about.
If you keep them coming, I'll shit on every one of y'all. These are probably
That's
the same people.
my job. Don't take away my fun.
These are probably the same people who are like, Burger King is not good. Or what's another stupid opinion? I bet the Crocs stay on when you coitus. That's a fact. It's better grip. I bet you be slipping out of there. I bet the rest of y'all be like, oh, hold on, I can't. I'll be in the shower like, they don't have to worry about me at all when I got the Crocs on. It's like, any of y'all go to get them grippy socks. It's just like a grippy sock for a man.
I've got the kind of socks you're supposed to. I mean, I've got my Pilates socks that keep you from slipping off those damn machines when you're trying to do all these jacked up exercises they do.
All I'm saying, Crocs, multifaceted footwear. You can run, you can coital, you can cuddle, you can play football. Hell, if I was a football player, I would be the first football player to have Croc cleats. Oh yeah, and fourth quarter come on, sport mode. I put
sport mode.
It's like, oh no, hey, breaking news from Adam Schefter. Bert put his cleats in sport mode. Everybody's racing to the DraftKings bet counter to be like, oh, we got to put an over on his rush, and he put him in sport mode. I left my girl who hates Crocs. That's what I'm talking about. One time I broke up with a girl for not liking Toby Keith. Like, if you don't like Crocs, look, my woman on the floor right now waiting for this to be over.
Women for way worse reasons than that.
Bert, when you wash your ass, do you put your finger in it to make sure all the... Oh, I shouldn't even read the first part of that. Are you supposed to do that? Are you supposed to be doing that to clean it? Do you be doing that? No, I don't, but if I'm supposed to be doing it... Okay.
That's a two Americas type situation. For some reason, the lack of washcloth usage.
Yeah, white people are not about
Caucasian brethren versus our African American component of the population. Like, all of you should be using washcloths to wash your ass. You should have one washcloth for your face and your body. You should have another one for your nether regions. And for some reason, more white people than not do not use washcloths, which is rather disgusting.
I didn't know you were supposed to have multiple. I have one like pink loofah. But I get a new. They're like $1.40 at Dollar Tree.
That loofah has had to see some literal shit at some point.
I be Gavin. I'm a big fella. Sometimes you got to throw that leg up where the soap goes. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need a little leverage. Sometimes you need a little. Anyway, all right. So as soon as the Crocs come out, I'm gonna start a GoFundMe. Everybody send me some money so I can get all the different colors, all the different. I can get fur, no fur, all the different Croc options. Everybody
Correct.
cool with that?
Major Keys says exfoliate cloth and washcloth. Yes, thank you. Somebody with sophistication. William Jones is trying to co-opt me and saying that because I'm Egyptian, I'm African American. Egypt is in North Africa. That is technically so, but I will allow you all make that claim. I'm personally not going to make that claim for myself, but I appreciate it. I'll be at your cookout if
Stolen valor. Stolen valor. He's not really in the streets. Don't give him that credit.
Baby, I'm in the streets.
No. Stolen valor. Stolen valor. Take his card. We're not counting this. Come on.
I didn't take. I don't have a card. William is offering me a card. I said, if you would like to give me your card or my card, I will accept. I will not claim that I have a card.
It won't even let me smoke on here. I probably shouldn't smoke on here. I think we would get in trouble for that. But anyway, Crocs are coming out. And my practice takeaways today were too good, and we will not be at practice for ever. They shut it down. They were like, "Hold on, we didn't know that Bert."
There's too much information.
We didn't know that Bert was a master note taker. So we came and did practice today.
Look, Frank is sick about hearing about your Crocs. She's disgusted.
Do I have a cat in here?
She's writhing to try and get away from the situation. She's pissed at me.
I'd stand up, but I don't know if it's that kind of show.
You're butt ass naked. We'd see where that washcloth is not actually good.
Maybe that's what I smell instead of these pine cones. All right.
I've had enough of this. Yeah, I got it. I had to double check which hand I was using below the screen, so you guys wouldn't see me screw that up for the 7,000th time. All right, the show has gone on long enough. We've been largely derailed. We hope you guys had fun. We always have fun hanging out with you. We did receive. So Bert's right. The training camp broadcasts are over. And that's disappointing because we didn't know that they were going to end today. There was a miscommunication in terms of the schedule and the training camp broadcast, or at least the radio show being at training camp. There's only 2 days left of training camp for what it's worth before the final preseason game. And then they get into regular season mode. So it was only going to be 2 more days anyway, but we didn't know it was going to be our last day. I've since, hashed it out with the Titans, and it's all good. I get where the line of communication fell through. Not the end of the world. So the radio show will be back in studio tomorrow, and we'll be in studio for the rest of the football season until such time as I have to do the radio show remotely from Vegas or Arizona or Denver or wherever it is that I might be, that it may take me a little extra time than it normally would to get back. Fun with you guys. Come hang out with us from 10 to 1. Go check out the podcast today, the radio show. Brett Kern, Ben Jones, they were great. Johnny Hecker on with Brett Kern. You're not going to hear a better punter interview than that. And I know normally you wouldn't say, punter interview, but this is a damn good punter interview. And it's going to be interesting to see how much of these, quarterbacking skills that Johnny Hecker possesses, because he was recruited in college as a quarterback. And John Bones Fossil has utilized his ability to play quarterback in some of the special teams trick plays that the Rams have previously done. So I would, again, not just because Robert and me and Lucas do the radio show every day and because we always think it's good. It was really good today. And I think you guys should go check it out if you have some time. Subscribe while you're there. I will see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.